Okay, so here we have the first bin. You can see it's kind of a half and half mixture. No, I didn't really do a whole lot of digging. I just went to go find one of the adults just so you could get a good size comparison. This is an adult size red wiggler. Excuse me. You know, he looks a little sluggish. He's been out for a couple of seconds now. I was trying to keep him in the dark. You know, I like to keep a good shadow on him. But here's kind of a close-up of what the red wigglers look like. Now, the big difference from these guys versus those European night crawlers isn't just the size, but it's what they do. Let's see if I can find some. You know, this is obviously a reclaimed bin, but I didn't want to try and put any worms in here. I just wanted to see what hatched, what we came out with. There we go. You know, here's a juvenile, maybe adult, you know, smaller, but, you know, look at this. Fits on one finger. Whereas the other ones, you know, quite a big difference. I got these because I'm looking for composting worms. I really want to be able to break down fertilizers, or excuse me, manures and things. And these guys thrive in a manure-like environment. Now, this isn't necessarily a manure-like environment. It's just some big crumbly chunks that were left over that we got from the first batch. It's kind of a mix-up of the pig manure and cow manure trial that I had. Unfortunately, like I said, I couldn't keep the supplier with a little bit. So this is a mixture amount, but it's going to do the same thing. It's going to break down the same way. Only difference is that it has a combination of cow and pig manure. Not even really a combination of what's left over of combination. Still perfectly good, great stuff. I just wanted to try a different kind of recipe, see how these guys are doing. You know, I'm definitely seeing some good concentrations. Oh yeah, here we go. 1, 2, 3 juicy adults right there. 4. If I grab that guy right there. You know, not a whole lot of worms, but these guys are going to reproduce. This bin is, well, was my biggest bin at the time that I first started with red wigglers. Kind of gives you an idea of where they get their name from. Very red. You know, some people call them tiger worms, striped worms. I think it probably got a couple hundred different names. The easiest way is to get a chart or have someone scientifically identify them. But you can really tell these red wigglers apart because right here, up towards the front, you can definitely see the reproductive organ. Pretty clearly stands out. And the easiest way to identify them in most cases. Put that little guy back in there. Now, with this being the reclaim bin, I never really fed them. They just got a bunch of leftovers, you know, obviously. Some decent sized chunks of rotting material. But I'm going to go ahead and dig down just so I can see what they got going on. And I'll dig a little bit more of this frozen stuff up. Just to kind of see if I can get them to congregate over here. Part of the onion, pepper chunks. Looks like these guys are going to get a strawberry today. You know, it all really just depends on what spoiled food I have on hand. Not always the same thing. You're probably saying that's a lot of food. You don't know even how many worms are in there, Brandon, but I come back when the food's gone. I don't feed weekly. I don't have to time it. I just give these guys a set amount of food, and when I can't find it anymore, I, come back, check, but that's the life of a worm farmer. It's not a fast-paced work environment. It's however many worms till it processes. I'm currently trying to build the inventory so I can sell these worms to other people. I don't have to worry about things like leachate, which is one of the commonly mistaken things that anybody says online. Leachate, which is the moisture or excess moisture that comes off of your material when you're vermicomposting. It likes to settle at the bottom, most people. If you notice, I'm just sitting on plywood. I do that because my material has good moisture content. I probe it. I make sure I keep my material within a set parameter. As you saw in my last bin, I keep a couple of different probes. This is my moisture one. I've gotten good at being able to just see with my eyes, but for a new person, this $20 probe, perfect. My compost probe works great in here and on the composters if I want to track the temperature there. I can already see as I go down, I have to hit the bottom of my bin before I start making worthwhile water. Here in the middle, I got my 3 sections. I always keep it on moisture because that's all I'm really measuring. I'm not worried about pH. If you start worrying about pH, you're definitely adding too many citrus fruits. You can add citrus fruits. Their skins, everything are with them. But you need to make sure you freeze them so they're nice and broken down when they come apart for the worms. Freezing is an amazing process. Taking all of that moisture and locking it up and then unlocking it is like explosions inside. It makes it so much easier for your worms to process your spoiled foods, your waste products. Yeah, my foods have gone bad, but it's okay because the worms take this. Now, you're probably thinking, that's an awful lot of food you waste to give your worms, and actually, this isn't all mine. I'll put a link at the end of this video, but I participate in a program called Share Waste. Look it up. It's a very good app. It is the perfect functioning. If you are thinking about getting into this, and you can download an app on your phone to help you acquire more material for free. People bring it to you. They don't know your address until you do it. But all it is an app on your phone. Very simple to use. See if I can bring it up. Just so you have an idea. I can do just about anything. It shows a map of the area, and then you can see whether you're a host like me or someone who's looking. If you're looking, you just click on whatever you think's close by you. In my area, there's not a lot of people. I have gotten a couple of contacts, nothing special, but as you can see, there's just me and a couple other people out in my area. It's very rare. I only have a couple people, but I'm slowly starting to build an area where we can connect to share waste to help make it go someplace other than a landfill. But that's how I get my waste. I can get it other ways. You know, you click on me, it'll tell you what I take, shows a little picture of me, tells you and about where I'm at, but you have to message me to find out, you know, a little bit more, set up a time and a date. It's a great app. I love using it. It's definitely helpful if you want to start something like this. Very simple to use. This worm farming thing is a very simple process. I see lots of people make lots of mistakes. I was fortunate enough to kind of learn from some very share-worthy people about how to do this. You can see this bin, I don't put as many leaves on top because it is reclaim. It's usually a little bit more moist, so I want to try and draw the moisture out. This bin was kind of dry. It's got these giant vent holes in either side, plus the 5 on top. And I believe just for aeration purposes, in some of the higher points in the bottom, I put a couple of holes with the same mesh screen. Allows a little bit of air breathing from below, but also keeps my material nice and dry. The worms love it. Building these bins was super simple. I bought a simple kit for my drills. It had all the drill holes I needed, and I just happened to have some leftover scrap from redoing our window screens a couple years ago. Make sure I'm on the right setting. And then this is how I apply moisture to my worm bins. All of my worm bins get about the same. It's not a measured amount, but you know, I don't have a lot of water to give them. That simple, that easy. This is my specialty bin. I'm going to go ahead and put that away, and then I'll set up the other 2 red wiggler bins so you can kind of see just exactly how I run those versus this reclaim bin that kind of is a mashup of everything. It's good. It's going to give me some good material. It'll probably fill up to about this line before I harvest. You're thinking, oh yeah, that's a long ways. When you start adding food, once these guys start breaking it down, it goes quick. Before you know it, you'll be up to, you know, 20, 30 gallons of material. I don't measure my material in weight, I measure it in volume. This whole bin was completely full of material from the last time. This one down below it, completely full. I'm just trying to get the last few red wigglers out so I can transport them. Those guys will probably go into this bin, give it a little extra oomph. Depending on how many I get, because I will make sure I get out and weigh them, I may split them up in between the other bins. The tubs got exactly 1/2 pound. I made sure I measured them. The reason why is I want to track how fast each tub grows. So, you know, one might get like 3 pounds, one comes out 4. I want to make sure I'm being accurate so I can control my inventory status. I worked in manufacturing for 15 years, so that's all this is. We're manufacturing a great soil additive or, you know, fertilizer if you want to call it, but this stuff builds up real quick. It does a really good job, and as I've said, you know, I'll get you a couple of shots, but my aloe vera plants that I had for 4 years before sat idle, not really growing. I think I maybe trimmed a couple of limbs off. I've already had to trim them 3 times in 2 months to take off overgrown limbs, and like I said, they're starting to bud babies. This material does amazing things for plants. It's not just fertilizer, it is an ecosystem that we're trying to restore. Okay, and here we go, Red Wiggler bin number 2. This one is nothing fancy, it's just a little bit of reclaim stuff. That's what we got going on right here. You know, just stuff that didn't make it past my 1/4 inch screen. Haven't gotten any further yet because of baiting worms, but kind of dig down, see what we got for worms here. These guys aren't going to get fed because I know they got a couple of apples split up, but here you go. A couple of good shots of the red wigglers here. You know, this one got a half pound, same with the one below. They seem to be thriving apparently. No, they do really good in this. I've done a lot of reading, a little bit of backstory as I kind of dig through here. I said I came from a long line of production background. Well, that's what I did for most of my life. I worked in a steel mill, I worked in a foundry, I have worked at making plastic bottles, milk jugs, but I found a real niche from something I learned about in high school. When I was going to a specialty program because I really did not like English in high school. Broke open one, found one. So I went to a specialty program that taught environmental education. And one of the things we studied in the very beginning there was compost and composting. They never really delved too deep into it, but I remembered a lot and I started reading a couple of books because I really didn't want to do this. I wanted to do aquaponics. But as I soon found out, that's a very expensive product. There we go, mushy apple. So this is what we're looking for, you know. Wasn't quite the center, I guess. A little bit off, but yeah, we got a nice little mushy apple here. I knew I saw one. Notice all the flies are now coming over. But I uncovered that food, so I'll kind of pile that back in there. But I found a nice little good-sized baby worm here. But anyways, as I was saying, I started out in this heavy production, you know, style stuff, and I started learning and relearning all about composting. Because I want to do aquaponics, I needed a way to get rid of my waste product. And so I wanted to make sure that I had every niche that I could knocked into the system. When I figured out that I could not afford to do aquaponics because it is an expensive startup company, where this is not. When I did that, I was able to find out a lot of information about worm farming. Well, I also had a lot of free time on my hands because I tried to break my back in 15 years of doing this. I managed to injure myself quite decently. You know, I'm not going to go into severe depths, but I started learning because of that a way to be able to make money because I didn't want to be, you know, crippled by today's standards of not being able to do anything. So I found something very easy. These totes, they don't weigh anything. Very lightweight material. I only let them go to this top level right here. They produced a full tub here that's slowly being consumed, and two other tubs over here of castings, just between three tubs. This is my first 3 tubs ever started. Tons of great stuff coming out of it. What I've done here is I've made a wet mess of things with letting this box try to sweat stuff out. You know, it's gotten a little wet. The leaves are definitely breaking down a lot faster because they drew up all the excess moisture. As you can see, the flies are loving it. I'll cover it back up, but I wanted to show you one last time, you know, an approximate size difference. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3" and almost 400 pounds, but that worm isn't even longer than my finger. The European night crawlers, just in this kind of clinched form, definitely longer. That's why they're a bait worm and these are composting worms. They do their job, they do their job. They both kind of work in a similar fashion, just these guys do it faster. Now that I've kind of disturbed this nasty nest of bugs, I think I'm going to get some more leaves to drop on here. I'll give these guys a little bit more dried out coffee away from the apple. I always, if I'm going to give them the dried out coffee to soak up moisture, I'll put it in an opposite area. That coffee loves to soak up the excess moisture. So this is kind of a soft corner. I already pulled it back. You know, you can definitely see excess moisture here. Got supplies everywhere. That's what happens when you work out of a garage. Well, I will take a good handful of coffee. Just kind of sprinkle it down in this hole that I dug. Then I'll cover it back up. And we'll get some more leaves and cover this back up. Unfortunately, the leaves are at the other side of the garage right now. But I'll get some leaves, cover these guys back up, and, you know, they'll continue doing their work here. Yeah, you can really see the flies have gotten out of hand. Pretty sure this is one of the bins that was feeding it. The leaves will help cover everything up, and I'll give it a nice dusting just to make sure we don't have any more of these flies. So next time you see this, much better looking. See you then. Okay, and here we are on the last red wriggler bin. You know, similar situation, still pretty wet. I'm definitely going to have to get in and mix some more dry leaves in. But let's take a look here. You can see the diatomaceous earth kind of doing its thing, taking effect on the little bugs. But what do we have here? Looking like it's drying out pretty nice down below. Definitely found a nice pocket here. Just some gorgeous pocket, actually, of red wigglers. Kind of know where they like to hide out. It's just the purpose of the bin, but you can definitely see. If I take this guy right here, you can definitely see that nice thick band right there in the middle where the reproductive organ is. You know, definitely ready. We will put them all back down, get this one sorted out. But these red wigglers, you know, they've only been going for about a month. They've already really started breaking stuff down. You know, look at the leaf litter is definitely soaked up a lot of the moisture. They move fast. I like that. They do a good job. No complaints about these worms. They will turn your stuff into great stuff for your garden. Now, you see me digging over here in this corner. Not because I'm trying to hide, I just know that the worms are there. And I want to know how moist it is at the bottom without actually shoving a meter in there. Definitely found a nice group. Oh yeah, this one is ripe. But all in all, it is definitely kind of dry for what that top surface looks like. One of the nice things is this material, when I got it, was sopping wet. I only had probably a day to let it dry. Found an almond seed, or not an almond, avocado seed. will break down nice and pretty. But yeah, definitely cover this guy back up with some more leaves. Let them keep doing their thing. They're doing an awesome job in here. You can already see, you know, I barely grabbed something off the top and a couple of worms, but this is what I'm looking at. This nice patch right here of already starting to turn into worm casting material. To give you kind of an idea of what that looks like, you know. This is the stuff from my quarter inch, you know. Nothing special. There's still material in here, but it still has to be sifted one more time. But it's very pretty, very beneficial for all of your plants. So cover that back up, and I think we'll get some leaves, throw them down on here, and then I will unpack both of the big boys. And we'll take a look and see what those Louisiana night crawlers that I've been talking about all day really look like and how they've been doing for the last couple of months. See you in a few minutes.